now introduce the next session, which is on marital rape. Can we please have the AV?
One of the most pressing but often ignored human rights issues. It refers to non-consensual intercourse within marriage, where a spouse is one of the most pressing but often ignored human rights issues. It refers to non-consensual intercourse within marriage, where a spouse is forced into sexual acts against their will. But is it a crime everywhere? The answer might shock you. Out of 193 UN member states, at least 150 countries have criminalized marital rape in some form. However, nations like India, China, and parts of the Middle East still do not fully recognize it as a criminal offense. In India, marital rape is not explicitly criminalized. Under Section 375 of the Indian Penal Code, a man cannot be prosecuted for raping his wife, provided she is above 15 years of age. This legal exception continues despite growing public outcry and judicial debates. Several cases of marital rape have made headlines in India. In 2022, the Delhi High Court gave a split verdict on criminalizing it, leaving the final decision to the Supreme Court. Cases like those of RIT Foundation V, Union of India, and numerous testimonies from survivors highlight the urgent need for legal reform. The Justice J. Verma Commission, formed in 2012 after the Nirbhaya case, strongly recommended the criminalization of marital rape in India. The report stated that marriage should not be a license to violate bodily autonomy and emphasized the need for legal reforms to protect married women from sexual violence. However, these recommendations have yet to be implemented. In a shocking case, Chhattisgarh High Court in February 2025 acquitted a man accused of sexually assaulting his wife, which ultimately led to her death. The court ruled that since marital rape is not a crime under Indian law, the accused could not be charged with rape, highlighting the disturbing legal gap that allows such injustices to persist. This case reignited debates on the urgent need for legal reform. Every individual has the right to bodily autonomy inside or outside of marriage. The conversation around marital rape must continue, and legal systems must evolve to protect all survivors. It's time to break the silence.
Thank you. I would now like to introduce the panel. Mr. Anil Mutri is an Indian men's rights activist and co-founder of the Save India Family Foundation, established in 2005. He also represented SIFF in media discussions, including participating in debates on platforms like NDTV to address concerns related to men's rights and family welfare. Sir, can I request you on the stage, please? The next panelist is Barkhat Rehan, who is a men's rights activist. She's the founder and president of Purush Ayog Trust, an NGO addressing men's issues. She directed the documentary Curse of Manhood and produced One-Sided Love, highlighting societal biases. A TEDx speaker and a media personality, Rehan actively promotes gender equality and legal platforms and reforms. Dr. Ruchika Sharma, we've already introduced you. Please request you to come on stage. Mr. Yashovardhan Azad is a former IPS officer. He served as Secretary Security, Government of India, and Special Director, IB. He frequently appears on various media channels to give his views. Yogita was supposed to be a part of the panel, but unfortunately she'll not be able to attend it today. However, she's watching us on YouTube, so we will hopefully have her comments flowing in. Thank you. And of course, the moderator, Leher, come.
So I think I've already said this before, we're on a shoestring budget. You can see the white tablecloths, unlike the Women's Day events that I do, that Yashovardhan sir has been witness to. Of course, but it shows you what really matters and how difficult it is to have certain conversations in our society and our country. I think this is a very serious session, and I would also like to give a warning to people who might get triggered with this session, because it is a disturbing conversation to have, which we acknowledge and understand. Okay, so we saw an overview video, and I would like to start with the men's rights activists on this panel. So I will begin with Anil. Yes. So Anil, as per my understanding, after speaking with you over the phone, even though you're quite understanding of the various issues that are faced by women, despite that, from what I understand, you oppose the criminalization of marital rape. I would like you to explain to us why that is so.
Yeah, firstly, I really thank Leher and the organizers, co-founders and all for inviting us, because this kind of a discussion debate cannot happen in other countries. Like say USA. In USA, they give death threats, they pull fire alarm, or they may do something like throwing a Molotov cocktail. But here we are, with all the differences, we are sitting across and talking. So this can be a challenging conversation. So I will just answer what is going on. We have not only blocked this law, we have blocked all the marriage-related laws for more than 10 years. So the last law which we rolled back was the no-fault divorce law and the marital property law. We rolled it back in 2012 to 14, 2 years campaign. So there is a background to what is happening. So the way we are right now, we will continue to do so for another 10 or 15 years if people, society, media, politicians, judiciary, and police, they don't grow up. Okay? If you see, I'm not from a social work background, I'm from an engineering background. And we have a problem like the way the things this country is going, if I do the same thing to a car, I have a background in designing cars, the cars will crash, the planes will fall. I'll now answer briefly, because this is the key thing. That's why I wanted to talk in the end. See, what has happened is that we talk about patriarchy, right? Right? So patriarchy, patriarchy is also a very overused word for so long with lot of baggage. It can be thrown around. But you have to go into the nuanced approach. In my second session, I'll speak what is the nuanced way of looking at patriarchy or traditionalism, all these topics. What is going on? What is police? You look at police in India, what is police? Or for that matter, what is judiciary? The police brutally attacks people.
Anil, I want you to be specific
No,
to
I
this
will come to
session
it.
and to answer my question directly. I asked you a very simple, direct
Can I
question.
then take 1
Why
minute?
do you oppose the criminalization of marital rape?
Okay, if you want that answer, see, as for me, 2-3 sentences. Police is patriarchy. Judiciary is patriarchy. Judiciary is literally a feudal system. You are suffering, we all are suffering, right? So, as a men's activist, our position, I'll tell you clearly, we want equality. We want human rights for everybody. And we want empathy for everybody, justice for everybody, and we don't want any violence of any form within marriage or outside. We stand there. We also stand for free speech. Now, where is the difference? The difference is this, that the
Anil,
police...
okay, I'm sorry, but you're digressing.
Sorry.
Last sentence. Direct question.
Last sentence I'm telling you. Last 20, 30 years, what feminism has done or media has done is that...
Forget what feminism
No,
and media
I'll tell you.
have done.
Let me
I
answer
want
this.
I want you to tell me why you oppose the criminalization
I'll
of
tell you.
marital
No, it's
rape.
very simple.
You've still not answered that question.
No, because there is a context. Feminism, even though you talk about fighting patriarchy, when it comes to men, you have an unholy alliance with patriarchy. As long as patriarchy is harming men, it is okay for you. So if police is brutalizing men in false cases or in whatever context, or judiciary is harming men, so we have a problem with, not with women. Firstly, we don't have a problem with women. We even don't have a problem with feminism. We have a real problem with police and judiciary. Our police doesn't investigate.
So should police not pick up somebody who's criminally
raped.
No,
their-
I'm not saying that. I'm simply answering this, that in India, police has to investigate. Police doesn't investigate. In India, police has no right to investigate. If it's a matrimonial case, police has no right to investigate. Police acts like a postman. Okay? So you go, file a complaint. Police may delay, take bribes and all that. But eventually, the police has no, in a USA, the police investigates. They hear both sides of the story. They investigate. In India, police is like a postman. He's not supposed to investigate. So this is where we want that thing to be fixed.
So Anil, let me summarize what you said, because you said quite a lot. What you're trying to say is that you're okay with criminalizing the marital rape law, the marital rape,
Yes.
provided you have faith in judiciary.
No. I said fix the police and the judiciary. Okay? If you don't fix it, we'll oppose it.
Okay, so, I was going to go to Barkha next, but instead I'll come to Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, because, no, I want you to speak next, sir, because you come from an IPS background, and from a police perspective, from a law enforcement perspective, I would want you to respond to what Anil just said.
I didn't understand, what exactly the argument is, whether the police is patriarchal or the judiciary is patriarchal. Police has to do a job which is totally professional. So it doesn't have to do anything with patriarchal at all. And what my views are, my views are very, very clear. So let Barkha speak first, and then I can...
Okay, so since I'm moderating the session, why I wanted to come to you, sir, was because after what Anil said, I think the crux of whatever he said, more or less, would you like to sum it up, Barkha, since you already have the mic?
Thank you here, everybody who's present, ladies and gentlemen. A great applaud for them, because actually, when we organize a program, since I'm also an organizer, it is very, very difficult to pull up people who want to listen to you. Money is involved. Hats off to Leher for organizing this, because it's pretty difficult. And again, as Leher said initially, you might have heard her saying that since marital rape, feminism, these were hard-hitting words, people backed off. So now I'll come back to marital rape. Yes, I'm against marital rape law, because already my PIL is there in Supreme Court. It was listed. Chandrachud sir couldn't discuss that. Now Sanjeev sir will be discussing it, and I'm waiting for that moment. I am totally against criminalizing marital rape law.
Why?
Because I feel India is a place where still marriages mean a lot. They are a sacred bond. There is a lot in marriages, companionship, the love, the bond which India shares across the globe. I think India is always known all over the world about the population, about the parivars, about the unity in the families, and how in COVID you have seen how families got together and they saved each other. So the family unity, the husband and wife, they live a life which is full of happiness until and unless there is too much interference of law. Today, the divorce rate is going so high just because we are going away from our sanskars, we are going away from our family system, we are dividing ourselves. And the politicians of the country, who've always divided the country on the basis of caste, creed, and religion, they are further dividing you on the basis of gender. So I must say here that men and women are companions.
You know, again,
there is no competition between them.
1 second, Barkha, since this discussion and this session is about marital rape, I would request all our panelists to be aware and sensitive towards that. We are not talking about marriage in general. We're talking about the criminalization of marital rape. So
Sure.
you said that you are against the criminalization of marital rape.
Just let me
and-
complete one sentence. I'll finish it off. See, already, now we'll come to the crux. Already there are laws where a wife can file a case of cruelty, and she can file a complaint in the police station. She can also move on in any other part of the property. She can select her room, she can put herself over there, she can file, she has all the recourse in the law. Why do we need another law to criminalize marital rape? We already have laws. All the wives have already been using this law even to get divorced. So why do we need another law?
Okay, thank you for answering that concisely towards the end, Barkha. I will now go to Dr. Ruchika Sharma. Ruchika, the reluctance to define non-consensual sex between married couples as a crime, okay, like Barkha said, you know, with traditional viewpoints of marriage, so once you're married, you just, you know, it's unbreakable, like as if, like you said, you know, it's something that you hold sacred. Interpretations of religious doctrines, you know, ideas about male and female sexuality, there's so many things that come into play, right? And you being a historian, do you think that this is because there are certain cultural expectations of subordination of a woman to her husband?
Since sacred bond is being talked about and we are saying we have a tradition of sacred bond, I'd like to give an example of that. There is a text called Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The chapter 6, verse 4.7 says how a man who's married to a woman should approach her sexually. Firstly, when she's not menstruating, you approach her. When she says she's not in the mood or she doesn't want to have sex, you bribe her, which is basically by giving gifts to her. If she still continues to say no, because let's be honest, you can't buy a woman's consent. If she still continues to say no, then you can beat her and forcibly have sex with her and tell her that I have taken away your dignity. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad legalizes marital rape, says marital rape is okay. Then you have two more texts. There is Manusmriti, the most notorious text, and Arthashastra, both of which say that a man who's married must control recalcitrant women. Basically women who these texts think are going outside the bonds of marriage or doing something they shouldn't be doing, which is not laid out in these texts. And they can do so by using violence. Furthermore, there are texts, Kama-shastriya texts, where there is a whole genre, it's not just Kama Sutra, there is a whole genre of Kama-shastric texts, which says that when it comes to prostitution, so there is the term for these prostitution called Naika or Ganika, both of them can be subjected to sexual violence. It's legitimate. So I think when we ask for why we want to legalize a law, we want a law against marital rape, is because there is already an implicit traditional law that says marital rape is legitimate, it is allowed. We want to make sure that that does not happen. And I've already given you examples of that. I also want to respond to the feminism patriarchy bit. Why does patriarchy exist? Why are we using the term? There are statistics. If you have time, I can give you statistics as to how patriarchy exists throughout the day. Why feminism exists is because patriarchy exists. It's literally a call for survival. Women die on the daily because patriarchy exists. So feminism is not a choice for women, it's a call to survival. And therefore feminism must certainly exist.
I'd like to add a line here.
No.
Just a second, a rebuttal to what she said.
No. Can I go to Yashovardhan sir first and then I'll come back to you for your rebuttal. So, Yashovardhan sir, like I said before, like I'd asked you before, but I'll change the question a little bit. So the legal age for consent in India has been defined as being 18 years of age, as per the POCSO law and the IPC. Now, this has been achieved after a really, really long battle. Can you help us understand what this law actually is? Because there seems to be a sort of contradiction between the age of consent law, which is 18 years of age, and the exception in the rape law to marital rape, which says that a man cannot be prosecuted for raping his own wife if she is above the age of 15. If she is not below the age of 15, sorry. So is that not a contradiction between the two laws?
Well, I haven't thought of it that way because, see, as far as I'm concerned. Is it okay now? Yeah. For me, rape of any kind, whether marital or extramarital, is a rape. Okay. The point here is that if you're really talking about democracies like UK and United States of America, where it's even gender neutral. Yes. So ideally, if you have a rape law, then you should have a gender neutral law.
Exactly. Exactly my point. I want to put
So have we reached that stage? That's the issue. That's number one. Number two, in my experience, when we had these amendments to these law, 498A and 498B, when I was superintendent of police in Sagar way back in Madhya Pradesh, there were a lot of these cases. Misuse of any law is there. You can't do anything. That doesn't mean that you don't make laws. But to overturn that used to be a huge problem because no policeman would dare, after a case has been registered under dowry, to sort of reverse that. And I remember myself writing, because I saw an 86-year-old woman who came to me, said, nobody is listening to me. I am being named as an accused for beating up my daughter-in-law. I can't even walk properly. So I wrote the diary myself, and it was accepted, and I scrapped the case. So my third point is that, see, where is the issue? Let's break it down. Issue is not amongst the English-speaking elite crowd. I wish we were speaking in Hindi, it will reach wider audience. लेकिन
सर कर सकते हैं हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं इट्स अ बाइलिंगुअल प्लेटफॉर्म
आप अंग्रेजी में बोल रही हैं तो मुझे भी अच्छा लगता है अंग्रेजी बोलने में हाँ नहीं सुनिए ना एनीवे सो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज कि अंग्रेजी तबके में तो इसकी कोई मान्यता नहीं इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि जहाँ पर एक उच्च वर्ग में ऐसी घटनाएं होती हैं वो तो तुरंत डिवोर्स की फाइल करेगी और कोर्ट फट से उनको दे देगा लोअर लेवल पे जो प्रॉब्लम है वो तो समस्या है डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस की मैरिटल इसकी और इसलिए मैं बरखा जी की बात से एग्री करता हूं कि ये चीज़ें जो हैं अगर हम ग्रीवियस हर्ट के मामलों को छोटे छोटे मामलों को ट्रोलिंग के मामलों को अगर लाएं सामने तो इससे ज़्यादा फायदा होगा हम एक इम्प्रैक्टिकल सजेशन को हम बता रहे हैं आई मीन लॉ लाना चाहिए लॉ इज़ गुड व्हेन इट कैन बी यूज्ड प्रॉपर्ली. If you have a law which cannot be used properly and it comes up, it will be in every case of divorce, I assure you, this section will be there.
So, with due respect, sir, there are laws. There is already a law for covering marital rape. My question is, when there is already a law, why do we? Yes, cruelty.
No, there is no law.
Cruelty is covered. My PIL says that. Just because Leher Sethi is saying there is no law, I won't believe it.
Scream.
And secondly,
I'll have to ask you to get off the stage if you're going to scream like this. You can say the same thing.
No, Leher, but
no, I think I told you very clearly.
I wasn't rude.
You screamed.
I wasn't
need to
rude.
scream.
Leher, I wasn't rude.
Your point will not be proved.
Leher,
this is not Arnab Goswami's show.
This is not Arnab Goswami's show. I'm telling you that there
you
is no law.
You can say the same thing politely.
The PIL says it that. I never meant.
Our house rules. We are here to discuss issues, topics that concern us as citizens. Every view, thought, opinion, perspective is noteworthy. We therefore endeavor to listen, be heard, not judge, hopefully not be judged either. We are all equals here, with thinking minds as our commonality. We agree to disagree. We expect the same from our panelists. Respect. We appreciate dialogue, interpersonal respect to be upheld at all times. This platform has a strict no profanity or discrimination policy. Please remain cognizant of the same at all times. Our house rules. We are here to discuss issues, topics that concern us as citizens. Every view, thought, opinion, perspective is noteworthy. We therefore endeavor to listen, be heard, not judge, hopefully not be judged either. We are all equals here, with thinking minds as our commonality. We agree to disagree. We expect the same from our panelists. Respect. We appreciate dialogue, interpersonal respect to be upheld at all times. This platform has a strict no profanity or discrimination policy. Please remain cognizant of the same at all times.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharib. Okay. See, I am the one moderating the panel here today. Let me ask the questions. I request you, Barkha, respectfully.
Yeah, I am
Okay,
with
thank you. Okay, so we'll go further. I'll come to you, Anil. Just before I go to Anil, I'll take 2 minutes to speak. So the most recent marital rape case was, there was a judgment that came in February this year, 2025, February 2025, from the High Court of Chhattisgarh. I'm going to talk about it for just a minute. Bear with me, please. So, like I said, there's an exception 2 in the section 375 of the IPC, which states that sexual intercourse by a man with his wife, if she is not below 15 years of age, is not rape. This is at odds with the Supreme Court's, like I said, the ruling, Independent Thought versus Union of India ruling in 2017, which raised the age threshold for marriage to 18 years of age. The High Court judgment did not address this discrepancy. This particular case that we're talking about is quite exemplary, which is why I'm bringing you all back to it. It is called the Gorakhnath Sharma versus State of Chhattisgarh case. May I request people to please turn their phones off or put them on silent? The victim was a minor wife between 15 and 18 years of age. The accused was a 40-year-old man. The circumstances were that the husband engaged in forceful and unnatural sexual intercourse with his wife, including inserting his hand into her anus. The woman reported severe pain and sought help from her husband's sister and another relative after he left for work. She was taken to a hospital, and within a few hours of being admitted in the hospital, she died. She gave a dying declaration to the police and to a magistrate, saying that she died because of what her husband did to her, due to the sexual intercourse she was forced to have with her husband. The post-mortem cited peritonitis and rectal perforation as the cause of death, indicating severe abdominal and rectal injuries sustained during the act. The woman attributed her condition, like I said, in her own words, to what her husband did to her. To both the police and the magistrate, she explicitly put the onus on her husband, which was medically and post-mortem corroborated. In 2019, a trial court convicted the husband of rape, section 376, unnatural sex, and culpable homicide, not amounting to murder. Again, the conviction relied heavily on her declaration as well as post-mortem and medical reports. However, as recent as February 2025, the High Court overturned the judgment and acquitted the accused husband. In all 3 cases, including unnatural sex, of which there was ample amount of proof. Do you feel, Anil, I'm coming to you, in this particular case, where there is no doubt, there is no discussion, there's no space for dissent, there is ample amount of proof of everything, including a dying declaration from a woman, who's a minor, by the way. In this case also, would you say that the criminalization of marital rape is wrong? Do you think that the exception should hold? And the burden of proof, remember, in India is not on the accused. The burden of proof is always on the victim. So it is not like a lot of rape cases get convicted. So why should marital rapes be different, be treated differently?
Actually, I have not studied this particular case, but if this is what you have said, is that the person has to be punished for whatever sections. With exception is, see, Indian laws are 1862, that penal code. Right now they are calling it BNS, but you all know it is the old wine in a new bottle. It is the same thing. So I'll come to this. If you allow me, how do we address marital rape? Okay, and with exception, I am not for any exceptions. Honestly, any law should not have exception. But let us go into the details of how do we prevent, redress, and deliver justice. These are the 3-4 steps rather than just talking one single thing. Okay, the first part is prevention or the remedy. Let's say domestic violence is happening, sexual violence is happening in marriage, right? Sexual violence is same as marital rape, right? So how do we prevent it? There has to be a proper process at the level of police, at the level of institutions, and the infrastructure. Okay, that is how the foreign countries tackle it. Let's say Europe or USA. There is a law called Violence Against Women Act. Okay, that was enacted in 1994. Joe Biden is the one who drafted. Our law is kind of copied. Okay, but by the way, Violence Against Women Act is gender neutral, even though it is written like that. Now, this law is the punishment part, but then law has a funding part. Okay, so there's a lot of funding is authorized every 5 years. And I'll give you a clear example. This is the elephant in the room. 20 years are almost over since this domestic violence law was passed, PWDVA. Now here is what happened. There are 0 domestic violence shelters for women. I'm not talking to men. Men can go wherever they are, but I'm talking to women. And there is no campaign to first get the domestic violence shelters. Let's say a woman is facing domestic, we get calls, by the way. We are a men's rights, so we get calls. Now the woman, we know that she's facing domestic violence, okay? Then we tell her, we don't have infrastructure or mandate, whatever, so call these numbers where she doesn't get help, honestly. She's not thinking about putting him in prison. She wants somewhere to escape, and her parents are in Calcutta or some other place. Literally, that is the situation, and we don't have an infrastructure built in last 20 years. In this particular case that you, and secondly, we need awareness also. Like the neighbors report, somebody report, there has to be a complete structural thing which is missing. That is first part. Now, the police accountability and other things that I spoke about are the other things. So in such a case, we would not like to have any exceptions. It's not appropriate to have any kind of exception. But there has to be accountability. There has to be accountability. I'll tell you where the problem is. Like our laws are a problem, but here is the problem. In India, we have a policy. We all follow it. Our judges also follow it. We don't follow the laws. Our judges themselves do not follow the laws. They can throw me in prison. I'm ready to go. And I'm making this statement. Our judges themselves will not follow the laws. Now, in such a country, what kind of justice do you expect? And I will clarify later on. Please continue.
Would you like to add something to that, sir?
No, I would like to say something very different. I would like to add
Please, go on.
anything. See, as I've understood the case, this case is a clear-cut case of sexual offense in aggravated circumstances, as is clearly mentioned in the Sanghita, BNS. There's no doubt. There's a POXO case also. It attracts POXO case. It attracts a natural sexual offense case. And I would have certainly added, and I'm happy it was added there, culpable homicide not amounting to murder, because he was absolutely aware, being 40-year-old, that this can cause serious injury or death. And therefore, in this case, if the High Court has just turned it on the basis of 375, the earlier IPC, I don't know, it's must be reviewed in the Supreme Court. It's a clear case of murder.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. Ruchika, you heard about this particular case, right? Being a historian, there is a historical significance to the connection between the age of consent law in India and also marital rape, right? Would you like to say something about that?
I think I have read the case earlier only, and I think just as a woman, the kind of visceral pain that I feel when I read the case in itself is very triggering for me. But, since I was hearing it now again, I could actually compare it to several instances. I'd like to give one from history. There was a woman in the 19th century, 20th century, a very avant-garde woman called Pandita Ramabai, who was an upper caste woman, but she spoke vehemently against practices of sati. She was also against the concept of pratiloma marriages being banned, which is intercaste marriages, especially between an upper caste woman and a lower caste man. She herself married a lower caste man, etc. She was very avant-garde. And she writes in detail about her own family and how a lot of things transpired in her own family and how she learned from it. She says that her mother, when she met her father was 44 years of age and her mother was 9 years old. And this was a Chitpavan Brahman plus Chitpavan Brahman match. And the 44-year-old to-be husband met another Brahmin who was the Nana of Pandita Ramabai, which means a mother's father. And within 15 minutes of conversation, thought that this 44-year-old man would be a good match for my 9-year-old daughter. And they got married. And Pandita Ramabai really, because she is so smart, she says, my father was exceptional because my father gave me education, my father gave my mother education. But had it been anyone else, my mother would have probably died because of early consummation of marriage before puberty. And that's because, why this is happening. This is not happening because those two people are crazy. There is a law in place, traditionally speaking. The Manusmriti says an 8-year-old woman can marry an 18-year-old man. A 12-year-old woman can marry a 30-year-old man. They say that this is all legal, legitimized. And this idea of using force in marriage to control women, to get sex from them, is again a very legitimized thing. I've already given you examples from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, from the Arthashastra, from Manusmriti. Arthashastra says if your woman is recalcitrant, you must give her sharir dandam, which means corporal punishment. Beat her up. So which is why a law which says that marital rape is illegal is absolutely required, because we have around 2,500 years of history of rape being legitimized in marriages. And it's only with a strong law can you overturn something like this.
Thank you, Ruchika. Barkha, I'll come to you now. Countries where marital rape remains decriminalized are very few now. Most countries, over 150 countries, have actually made marital rape a criminal offense. The countries that have not yet criminalized it are India, China, Bangladesh, Nigeria, countries in the Middle East, in South Asia, and Africa, where cultural, historical, or legal traditions actually, such as the colonial era marital exception. I don't know, if you're aware of this, but there was a time when rape was not considered a criminal offense against the woman herself. It was considered a crime against the man who owned her. And I'm not talking about India. I'm talking about Western countries. I'm talking about England. I'm talking about America. So when a woman was raped, it was not a crime against the woman because she had no autonomy. It was against the man who owned her, which was either her father or her husband. Okay, so the law that we have has been brought in by the so-called colonials, Britishers. But in these countries, the law still persists, whereas the countries that brought in the law have changed the law. So, while our government has recently changed the laws and they have said that they are now decolonializing, why is it that they retained this particular law, as per you?
See, to start with, I strongly feel India needs gender neutral laws. And that is what I'm advocating. In the cases which you just talked about, yes, they should be penalized. Strictest of strictest punishment should be given to those rapists. But I have a very clear stand here that I don't stand with any rapist. My only concern here is when a man is falsely implicated in the fake cases. Like if suppose we're talking about marital rape, one fine day, woman wanted something, the wife had wanted something, and she requested or she demanded for it, whatsoever it was, and it wasn't fulfilled. And she is in anger or she is in a mood which is very bad, and she says that, yes, my husband forced sex on me and he raped me. Now tell me, where is this husband going to go? What recourse does this husband have? Now, on numerous debates, on every channel, I've been telling people, tell me the
He has all the
technicalities.
recourse, there is no law. What recourse do you want from something which is non-existent as a law? She's saying it. I mean, people say all sorts of things. It's not a crime to say something. But there is no legal implication. As per you yourself, it's not been criminalized. So what is it? You just proved my point.
I already said in the beginning that the wife has all the legal recourse. She can file a divorce on the basis of cruelty if forced sex is done. I'm repeating again, the wife has all the legal provision. What are we talking here is that the husband doesn't have. And I know of so many cases, we are living in the 21st century, where the wives have forced themselves on the husbands and they are not in a mood. That is also rape. So first make the rape law gender neutral, and criminalizing part, forget it, because it's already covered. Why on earth do we need another law? Just tell me the question, answer this question. And what technicalities can we work for the husband? Like if he had sex, how is the husband going to prove his innocence in the court or wherever? Will we put the porn video there? Is judge going to come sit? Or is anybody going to monitor the sex? Once we decriminalize, once we bring in adultery, and on the other part, we are bringing a thanedar who's going to sit in the bedroom and see what is going on. Was it forced sex or was it not forced? Was it consensual sex? Okay. So this is a baseless thing.
But there's medical corroboration. That is what
and
medical corroboration
and
does.
which women deny.
Whether it is or not.
And which women deny 90%. They don't go for medical test. Just a verbal.
Then it cannot be proved. Now, Barka, nobody goes to jail for a crime that has not been proven.
Her verbal verdict is enough. Her verbal verdict is enough that I was raped at night.
Anil wants to come in and say something. I'll allow him to speak, and then we'll open this to the... Yes, you can just... We'll come to the audience questions. We're already running behind.
Can I just take 1 minute?
Yes.
See, honestly, I'll tell you how the exception can be removed. Okay. So a separate CRPC section is needed. Okay, a separate. You can't use the existing CRPC sections where you write down how the whole thing will be investigated. A separate evidence act has to be written. Okay, if you write it thoroughly, and also, let me put it this way, that in India, we have a simple law called IPC 211 BNS 248, which says if somebody files a false case, you punish them. Very simple, right? You are saying all laws are misused. Fine. If somebody's punish them. Now here is the problem. The judges will never punish it, okay, because they are enjoying with all the money that lawyers are making. Okay, so it is simple to remove if you make, but the Supreme Court can't do this. Supreme Court can't remove, add those extra evidence act and all those things. That Parliament's job to do it, okay? So they have to do it in a systematic way, in a structured manner with an accountability. If they put a misuse clause inside that, or they use 211 and give some compensation if there is a false case, we are more than happy to support.
Thank you, Anil. I think that's ending the session on a very positive note. So we have one men's rights activist who's against criminalizing it, and one who I think we've convinced that it should be criminalized.
No, that's where we are always there.
Provided that there is a...
We are always
Yes.
there, yes.
Thank you. I will open this session to the audience. Yes, Amar wants to ask a question. Can we give a mic to Amar, please? Please just ask a question. We'll take 3. We have time to take 3 questions. Take mine, yes. ये ले लो. You can take this one. It's working.
सॉरी, मैं आप लोगों का ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा. मैं आप लोगों का ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा. बरका मैम, आपसे एक रिक्वेस्ट है, ये रिपब्लिक भारत का मंच नहीं है, तो आप अपना जो भी पॉइंट है पोलाइटली रख सकते हैं. और
मुझे लगता है मैंने सब पोलाइटली ही किया है यार.
नहीं, माइक स्पीकर ऑल्सो इज गुड, वर्किंग गुड. हाँ, ओके. बात मेरा सर आपसे, आजाद सर, आपसे एक सवाल है, बिकॉज आप फॉर्मर IPS ऑफिसर रह चुके हैं. अगर हम मैरिटल रेप की बात करें, बिकॉज इज अ वेरी सेंसिटिव टॉपिक, बट इंडिया में, नॉट फॉर इंडिया, ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड रेप बहुत तरीके के होते हैं. प्रोस्टिट्यूशंस जो कि सेक्स वर्कर होते हैं, उनके भी रेप होते हैं आए दिन. एक दिन में एक औरत के साथ एक मर्द नहीं 10 मर्द संबंध बनाते हैं. ये पब्लिकली ही हम सबको पता है कि दिल्ली में कितने कोठे हैं, किस किस शहर में कहाँ कहाँ कोठे. इस चीज़ पे डॉक्यूमेंट्री भी बन चुकी है. मेरा एक छोटा सा सवाल है आपसे. इस देश को आज़ाद हुए इतने साल हो गए हैं, वुमेन्स की सेफ्टी रिस्पेक्ट की बात की जाए तो हर वुमेन्स, नॉट फॉर एजुकेटेड वुमेन, हर वुमेन्स को एक रिस्पेक्ट के साथ देखना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारा देश देवियों का देश कहा जाता है, देवी पूजी जाती है. बट डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस औरत के साथ होता है, रेप औरत के साथ होता है. पति आज मूड में है, औरत मूड में नहीं है, तो उसका रेप कर देता है. छोटे गांव देहात में कहीं भी रेप हो जाता है. तो इसके ऊपर कब कोई कानून आएगा, क्योंकि आज तक कोई कानून नहीं आया है इस पर. मैं इस पर छोटा सा सवाल है मेरा, अगर आपको उचित लगे तो आप जवाब दीजिए. मुझे इस पे कानून चाहिए. आप बिकॉज IPS ऑफिसर रहे हैं, आपके पास पावर है, आपके पास नॉलेज है इस चीज़ के ऊपर, तो प्लीज़.
सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको ये आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूँ कि स्थिति उतनी भी ख़राब नहीं है जितना कि हम सोचते हैं. आज मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूँ कि ये अवश्य है कि पुलिस में थोड़ी सी और संवेदनशीलता आनी चाहिए. सेंसिटिविटी बहुत ज़रूरी है, और इसके बारे में हम अपने शीर्ष स्तरों पर बहुत कार्रवाई करते हैं, इसमें कोई शक नहीं है. लेकिन आज की रिपोर्टिंग जो है, अगर आप उसको कंपेयर कीजिए तो वो ज़्यादा हुई है. इसलिए नहीं कि मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि ज़्यादा रेप्स हो रहे हैं, बट रिपोर्टिंग भी ज़्यादा हो रही है. और हमारे साथ जो समस्या है वो देखिए, वो ये है कि हमारे पास होम मिनिस्टर ने अनाउंस किया है कि 2030 तक वो फॉरेंसिक साइंस के सारे जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हैं वो आपको मिलेंगे. सबसे गंभीर समस्या ये है लहर कि समय पे फॉरेंसिक सपोर्ट नहीं मिलने पर हमारे केसेस फेल कर रहे हैं. हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हमें एक फॉरेंसिक इक्विप्ड गाड़ी चाहिए, साइंटिस्ट चाहिए, लैब असिस्टेंट्स चाहिए. तो इसलिए ये एक कारण है. दूसरा कारण जो डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस की आप बात कर रहे हैं, स्टेट्स ने एक ऐसी असंवेदनशीलता दिखाई है जिससे आप आश्चर्यचकित हो जाएंगे. निर्भय कांड के बाद इतने 1000 करोड़ दिए गए थे, और वो सोशल वेलफेयर मिनिस्ट्री के थ्रू कहा गया था कि आप अपने प्रोग्राम्स भेजेंगे. आपको शॉक होगा ये सुन के कि 37% सिर्फ यूटिलाइजेशन हुआ है. हर चीज़ थी उसमें. आप ट्रोलिंग की बात कर रहे हैं, हर जगह वो अलार्म बेल का सिस्टम था, हेल्पलाइन का सिस्टम था, मेडिकल का सिस्टम, एवरीथिंग वाज देयर. लेकिन स्टेट्स ने अपनी रुचि नहीं दिखाई. और चूंकि ये इंडिविजुअल लॉ एंड ऑर्डर स्टेट का सब्जेक्ट है, वहाँ पे हम मार खा जाते हैं. तो इसके लिए एक बहुत व्यापक एक तरह का प्रयोग करना पड़ेगा, और इसमें ऐसी संस्थाएं जो अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम्स करती हैं, इनका बहुत बड़ा हाथ है.
Can I say one sentence? See, foreign countries, in the Western countries, they have proactive policing. Okay, see, we know that jungle rapes are happening in jungles and lonely areas, gang rapes are happening. The police is proactive. Okay, so they take full processes to catch the potential before a crime happens, right? So here, we have not evolved up to that level, unfortunately, even after 80 years.
इसका एक लाइन में जवाब दे दूं?
Yeah, please.
You know, please, I'm requesting everyone, please इस गलतफहमी में मत रहिएगा कि विदेश में रेप के केसेस के इन्वेस्टिगेशन बहुत अच्छे होते हैं.
और 600 गुना है सर, स्वीडन में 600 गुना
exactly.
रेप के केसेस हैं, बस फर्क इतना है कि ना मीडिया बात करती है ना कोई और.
They are overwhelmed, और न्यूयॉर्क के केसेस और अमेरिकन केसेस में there is an amazing amount of, in fact, that way India is better.
I will tell you, every incident is considered a rape in Sweden. So if there are 10 same person raping 10 times, then it's called 10. That's how we.
And the police is working proactively. In India, the problem is the population. इतनी सारी population, एक पुलिस वाला किस को संभालेगा?
I'm really sorry. I don't like to do this, but we just have time for another 2 questions. Let's just quickly give it to. Okay, Naz, you're coming on the stage, so I'm going to not give it to you. Yes, this girl in the pink. Sorry, can you, whoever asks a question, can you please stand up, introduce yourself, and then ask a question?
Hi.
Okay, after this, please, can you give the mic to the lady in pink?
So I just want to ask the questions. We are working towards the marital rape. We are discussing about the marital rape. But why we are not discussing about the provisions which are there and they are being misused a lot? Like there is a case in Haryana where a woman filed 58 rape cases, and there the policeman and there the lawyers lobby was involved into that. There were cases in Jaipur, there were cases in Gurgaon where the women are filing a lot of rape cases just for the extortion purpose. And whenever those cases are brought out in front of the system does not penalize them. These kind of extortionists or these kind of criminals are being not given any kind of penalty. Moreover, why we are not talking about the rape of a man? If we look into the data, in 2008, Ministry of Women and Child Development has done a survey. There it was a data that 53.4% boys are also get raped. But why we do not talk about these issues? We heard a story, we heard the news where a 24-year-old tuition teacher, female tuition teacher, raped a boy of 15 years old, and the 15-year-old boy was nabbed by the police, and he was nabbed for the extortion purpose, and later on he committed the suicide, and before committing the suicide he also gave a dying declaration, but no one talks about that. Why these issues?
No, thank you. What is your name?
My name is Manish.
Manish, I don't think that nobody talks about it. The fact that Atul Subhash's case has been taken over by the media the way that it was.
No, but it is only the single case. After that also there were many cases.
There are many cases.
There is Atul Subhash brother also.
And I agree with you that there should be a conversation. There are people like Anil. There is the Save Indian Family Foundation. There are people like Barkha who are working on that. You see, everybody has
and
to
we
select.
are here just because of Leher. She only invited
that's
us.
okay. See, we have to select. Sometimes we have to select our battles. That which battle is it that we want to fight? And sometimes you cannot fight every battle. Not that what you're saying is wrong. I feel that the women who file these false cases do a greater disservice to other women than even the men. So we are totally with you on that. Is there another question? Yes.
Hello.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yeah. My name is Aisha, and I've completed my master's in Women and Gender Studies. So this is my core area. And when we talk about patriarchy and rape against one person another, nobody is here denying that it has not happened with male or female. It's not about them. So my question is, if rape is legally recognized and crime, why do we have specifically mentioned that in marriages it is not as considered as rape? That is the main question, that if it is legally recognized, why we are adding the term marital in that particular question and upholding men's right to sex over women's right bodily. Because when we talk about the constitution of marriage, as Barkha ma'am said, it's a marriage of consent, respect and everything. So if marriage is based on the mutual respect and everything, why we are involving that rape is a crime, but marital rape is not?
I think it's a very good point that you made. I anyway wanted to answer what Barkha had said about the fact that cruelty is included. Rape is not just cruelty. Let's not minimize rape. Rape is much more than cruelty. Cruelty is also, for example, slapping your 2-year-old child. That's cruelty. That's not rape. So let's not say that cruelty in itself will suffice to say, ki, oh, this is rape. Let me finish, Barkha. You can answer later. The other thing which is very important, I think we really need to focus on statistics. There's a lot of whataboutery about single-handed cases. Oh, why are we not talking about this? Why are we not? NFH survey, 2019-2021 says 9.9 cases of marital rape out of 10 are not reported. And even then, those who are reported, the statistics are staggering. 32% of married women experience marital rape, they've reported it. And 82% of women who've reported sexual violence say their husband was the one who perpetrated the sexual violence against them. So I think when we are talking, what cases are we not talking about? Let's really focus on statistics, because there are massive statistics which prove that marital rape is a huge problem and women are really being oppressed by it. So let's first address that, and we can certainly come to other cases, so-called false cases. If they are false, they are not false, we can certainly come to those limitations. Just because a law exists does not mean it will not be misused. Many laws are misused. That does not mean the law itself is the problem. That means the misusing is the problem.
Can I respond?
So let's not...
Now I'll tell you.
I will
now
just
since you have spoken, now I'd like to end up with this. See, my only concern is to save the families, to save the marriages. If a woman or a wife is facing some hardship in the name of marital rape, she can file a divorce. She can file a complaint. She has all the legal recourse, and the husband has no recourse. He can go nowhere. The point of discussion...
Getting a divorce doesn't send him to jail, Barkha.
Listen, why do you want to send him jail? Jail जाने से क्या?
Can I make one last point? Can I make a last point? No, I'll tell you one thing. See, here is the danger part for feminism, not for us. I'll tell you why. We guys last 15 years have decided, or we have trended, marriage strike. So we have long back, when the marital problem, so good thing. No, we are with you. No, we are with you. We are not going to be harmed, and we are increasing the numbers. But let me answer. No, can I answer? No, can I answer? So let me answer. By the way, please stop.
I'm not speaking anything when he finishes.
We are now interrupting each other.
Nobody.
See, here is the problem. When you say rights, when you don't address the misuse problem, I'll tell you what is happening. It is not a problem of actually, it is not caused by feminists. So feminists are not promoting misuse. Let me be first. Second is, women are not promoting misuse. See, what is happening is that these patriarchal systems that you have, they are using you, and to attack men. And when the backlash happens, when there is a backlash we create, who gets targeted? It is the feminist, ultimately your causes are getting defeated. So when you are saying that misuse to chalta rahega, sabhi law misuse hota hai, you are justifying collateral damage. And ye jo collateral damage mein jo ek aadmi mar rahe hai na, honestly speaking, hum to bolte hain ki we don't care. So you are basically creating a backlash.
Murder victims are, if somebody is misusing murder law, then the murder...
No, murder law is not
The misuse is not a problem. How is the husband going to prove his innocence? Let's talk about husband's rights also. That's the crux.
Sir, please wait for a group picture.
I would request all the panelists to be on the stage for the group photo, and we'll have another session after this. I would request Rupam and Leher to present the goodie bags to the panelist. Can we have everyone for the group photo? Can we have the PAP team for the group photo with the panelist?